Without further ado, let's welcome Justin Riordan.
Sweet. I'm gay. And I knew that you guys were probably thinking, like, owns a home staging company, wears pink pants on stage, heterosexual. And when I said that, you were like, holy shift. Right? Were you totally thinking that? I was too. All right, so as a gay man, I've always looked for role models of masculinity. It's something that doesn't come very easily to me. And one of my favorites as of right now, outside of Obi, would be Ron Swanson. He's a character on 30 Rock who oddly looks a lot like Obi. It's crazy. I've got a type. Don't worry about it, I'm married, it's cool. Ron Swanson once said, luck is a concept invented by the weak to explain their failures. Let's just look at that one more time. Luck is a concept invented by the weak to explain their failures. July 4th, 2018 started off as a pretty cool day. We were having a dinner party. There were 18 people coming over for dinner. 8 people were going to spend the night at our house. We were lighting firecrackers out in front of my house. And as I'm like literally lighting this explosive device, my landlord from my Seattle business calls me and says, I have bad news. And I was like, okay. And he goes, your building is on fire. And I said, well, have you seen it yet? And he's like, no, I haven't seen it yet. I was like, well, why don't you go and take a look at it, and then give me a call back and let me know how bad it is. And I tried not to look like shocked because, I have all these dinner guests and my family's there and lighting firecrackers. And I waited and I went inside and I Googled the term Seattle fire, and this is what I saw.
A 3-alarm fire that broke out tonight is still smoldering in SoDo right now. Chopper 7 was over the scene shortly after it broke out on East Marginal Way South around 7 o'clock tonight. Just look at those flames.
So needless to say, my heart kind of dropped because that's my building. That's where we were in SoDo, and it was on fire, and there were flames shooting out of the front of it and hoses shooting into it and smoke building out of the top of it. And I felt terrified, and I didn't really know what to do. And so I had to make some decisions. Am I going to just give up, shut down half of my business? It was only 18 months old in Seattle at that point. I'd been in Portland for a couple of years. Or was I going to take this and somehow turn it into a flopportunity? Let's talk about that word really quick, flopportunity. So flopportunity is flop plus opportunity equals a flopportunity. And it was coined by my good friend Donna Wade, who I have known since high school, and we're on the phone talking about this very incident when we came up with this. And so we're going to break down this word just for a few minutes here, okay? So what do flopportunities look like? They're really easy to recognize, okay? They look like failures and accidents and miscommunications and missed appointments, embarrassments, mistakes, disappointments, dropped balls, injuries. They look like flops. Flopportunities look exactly like flops because they're the same exact thing. So how do flops make us feel? When we fail, how do you feel? These are some words that we might feel like: angry or frustrated, shocked, weak, depressed, sad, confused, stupid, mad. When it all comes down to it, we feel scared. We feel scared when we fail. That's the thing that we have that's inside of us. But there's something super cool about being scared. And we're just going to look at this little math equation. Scared is simply excitement plus fear. So if you take excited and you add fear to it, that gets you scared. Let's just give an example here. You see a lion, you feel scared, you run away. That's scared, right? You see some cheesecake, you feel excitement, you run towards it. It's the exact same feeling, just one has fear and one doesn't. You like cheesecake a lot, don't you? I know, this is good. It's good stuff, man. So here's the really cool thing about math. Math is fun. If scared equals excited plus fear, then scared minus fear equals excited. Does that make sense to everybody here? Yes? If you take the fear out of it, it's kind of crazy. You can still use the motivation without the fear behind it. So we choose to be excited. So what exactly does a flopportunist, we're just making up words left and right here today, what exactly does a flopportunist look like? We are endlessly optimistic. We can choose to be afraid, or we can choose to be excited, because ultimately what it comes down to is choices, right? I love drag queens. They always get my point across a lot better. Again, gay. Okay, so just in case you forgot. Endlessly optimistic. We choose to be excited. We choose to be happy. We choose to look at an opportunity like something like a building burning down, and we choose to be excited about that, which comes down to grittiness. So does everybody know this term grit? Yes, there's this fabulous book by Angela Duckworth called, of all things, Grit. It's persuasive and fascinating, really good book. Grit is this concept that you don't quit. When you come down to something that you're going to work on, you work on it until it's done. And some people are gritty and some people are not. And you can actually find out if you're gritty or not if you go to Angela's website, angeladuckworth.com/gritscale. You can take this little test. It takes like maybe 5 minutes, and it will tell you what your grittiness is for that day. I belong to this business accountability group, and every month we meet and we sit down and we actually have to tell everybody else what our grittiness score was that day. And it changes a little bit. This was mine today, 4.7. I tested 95% higher than most American adults in a recent survey, so pretty gritty, which makes me a flopportunist. All right, so gritty. We tend to be a little bit ridiculous. People look at us and they're like, wow, you're ridiculous. If you say to somebody, my building burned down today and I'm super excited about it, they kind of go like this. And it's okay. We can choose to listen to those people, or we can choose not to. In fact, here's the awesome thing about being a flopportunist. We absolutely know that we are in control of nothing in our lives except for how we react to it. If my husband says, gosh, you look terrible today, I can't control him. All I can control is how I react to it. And I can say, so do you. Or if my building burns down, I can be super sad and I can throw myself on the floor and cry about it. Or I can say, you know what, this is an opportunity. We're going to come back even better after this. So sometimes we can be a bit ridiculous. The other thing that we do is that we prepare for the worst and we hope for the best, which seems kind of weird to say that you could prepare for a flop. You could anticipate failure. Many of us prepare for success. I like to prepare for failure just in case. And then I like to hope for the best things that are going to happen in the world. When it comes down to it, preparedness is our superpower. So everybody has their superpower. Flopportunists, they love preparedness. They like to be ready for it. So every once in a while, I'm going to put up one of these screens, and if you want to take a picture of something, this is like the summation of all those things. We're just going to go through this real quick. So qualities of opportunists: we're endlessly optimistic, we're gritty, others think we're ridiculous, we prepare for the worst, and we hope for the best. That's all of it, all right? Cool, we're moving on. Take your pictures. It's going away. How to prepare for a flopportunity. Okay, so this sounds crazy. All right, but I actually prepared for that fire, which is crazy. I was totally prepared for it. So you're like, insurance scam? No, I'm totally kidding. Shh. Is this being recorded? All right. So when you're preparing for a flopportunity, the first thing that it takes is imagination. One of the things that we hate to think about in our lives is the worst thing that can happen to us. So I'd like you just for a second to think about what would be the worst thing that could happen to your business. I was reading this magazine called Portland Monthly. I live in Portland. And they have this huge spread on how the city of Portland is not prepared for earthquakes, and we are overdue for an earthquake by about 1,000 years. And they're like, when it comes, it's going to be terrible, and everybody's going to die. And I was like, oh, I'm filled with fear. And then I was like, oh, let me get rid of that. I'm going to take that fear and I'm going to change it into excitement. And I was like, all right, so cool. What do I do next? Well, I've imagined what my shop would look like after an earthquake. I don't have any work to do or anything. My people are totally slow. They don't have anything. So now I have to start to prepare for that inevitability. If there is an earthquake, what do I do for that? I had one shop at that point, just in Portland. And I thought, well, if I had a second shop that was far enough away that it wouldn't be affected by the earthquake, but it was close enough that my trucks could drive to help us out, then I could be a little bit more prepared for this inevitability. And so we opened up a second shop in Seattle, which was far enough away, the earthquake wouldn't hit there, but we could drive in. And I was like, this is so great, because if the earthquake hits Seattle, then I'll be ready in Portland. And if it hits Portland, then I'll be ready in Seattle. Score! So you see how endlessly optimistic about earthquakes? It's awesome. All right, so I prepared. We made up these little door hangers. They're super cute. They say, we can help. You don't have to go through this by yourself. We have trucks and strong people. We can help you out. We can paint. We can change carpet. We can like haul away trash, anything you need. Because I have no idea what the emergency is going to be, but I know that I have trucks and people and not any work to do, because if there's a big, huge earthquake, nobody wants to stage at that point. They're like, staging, whatever. So I have these things. They have our contact information, our addresses on the back of them. They're like, just contact us. We'll help you out. So we prepared for that thing. The next thing we had to do is just manage that preparation. So last week I went up into the attic and I grabbed these and I was like, oh man, we still have the old address of the building where we had the fire. That was still on there. And they had our old logo. So I was like, we need to have these reprinted. And my assistant Cole, he was like, actually, we reprinted those 6 months ago. And I was like, sweet, you guys already took care of it. Right on. They have a better memory than I do. So once we're prepared and once we manage those preparations, then we just need to move on. We've thought about it. We've worried about the catastrophe. We've done it. This is me at the beach last week. And guess what I'm not thinking about? I'm not thinking about earthquakes. Those are my buddies. So if you're going to take that picture, here it is, how to prepare for our Flopportunity. Imagine, prepare, manage, and then just move on. Get rid of it. Keep going. All right, so Flopportunity management. We're going to go through the fire and talk about exactly what happens when that flop lands in your lap, and all you have to do is just not bat it away. That's it, all right? So it looks like this. Stop as soon as you feel scared, all right? Stop. Second thing, this is where I had to stop, right? I saw this fire and I was like, scared. All right, what do I do next? Breathe. Just want to take a second with all of you. I'm going to count to 3. We're all going to inhale very deep. We're going to hold it for a second, then we're going to let it go. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hold it and exhale. Do you feel better? I feel a little better, although I might be a little bit excited out here. So, all right, so we breathe. What's the next thing to do? Identify the flop. Figure out exactly what it is that you're dealing with. And this is what my identifying the flop looked like.
Okay, so here we are at Spade and Archer. This was 2 days after the fire. You can see the thing is pretty much destroyed.
So that's what I walked into, identified it, and I was like, yep, it happened. And I was fresh at a time machine, so I couldn't undo it, so I had to deal with what the flop, whatever the heck it is, you gotta deal with it. So I identified the flop. The next thing you gotta do is you gotta accept it and say, yeah, it happened. All right, so this is what it looked like for me.
So this is our little warehouse. We're in a temporary space here, 20 feet by 30 feet. We scored this the day after the fire. And here's Chad, our creative director in this office, and he's moving some outdoor furniture for the guys to come back and pick up. So yeah, I mean, pretty much, like, this is it, man. 20 by 30 feet. Check that sucker out. Even got little accessory shelves back there. We're on our way.
You can see right there where I'm starting to accept it. We had come from 8,000 square feet, by the way, so now we're in a 20 by 30 space, so a little bit freaked out. So then we need to choose excitement. So as soon as we're past that little bit of fear thing, we've taken that breath, we've realized what it is, we know we accepted it, now we choose excitement, and this is what it looked like for me.
Okay, so we made it into our second temporary space. We've got just a little bit over 3,000 square feet in here, and so much better than what we had, which was 20 foot by 30 foot. And this is way better. We've got like linen lane over here. We've got our accessories section. We've even got a second floor where we keep a lot of our furniture. So much better. This is Nick. Say hey, Nick.
Hey.
There he is. So yeah, I think we're at this point, we're 14 days after the fire, and we're moving into our permanent space at the beginning of September, and feeling so much better about this. So much better.
You can start to see where excitement kind of starts to come in. That day of the fire, I called all 30 of my employees and I said, I just need you to know you still have a job, but our building burnt down. And those were terrible phone calls to make. And it was up to me to try to wear my emotions on my sleeve. And you can see that both Chad and Nick in those videos are both in fairly good spirits, despite the fact that like half of our business had just burned down like within the last 2 weeks. That excitement spreads to people around you. So the next step is to find the opportunity. And my PR person called me right after the fire and said, I think we should go on the news and we should talk about how we had this fire and we should try to win some sympathy off of it. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that at all. And she's like, why not? She's like, the guy next door to you totally got some sympathy out of it. And I was like, I don't want to say a word about this. We're super lucky. The news didn't even mention that our space was there. Don't even know. I said, why don't we like wait for some time, rise back like the phoenix, and then make the news story be like, yes, I've done it. And she was like, oh, that's a really good idea. And so around the same time, I realized that like the home staging industry didn't make any sense to me, the way that it works. Home staging right now, the way that it works is that you pay your home stager ahead of time, and then they go and they stage the house, and then you pay rent every month for as long as they have your furniture. And so the longer the house is on the furniture, is on the market, the more money that they make. But oddly enough, you and your seller, the longer the house is on the market, the lower the price gets and the less money that you make. And if the house doesn't sell, do you get paid? No. Does the seller get paid? No. Does the home stager get paid? Let me get this straight. You got paid to fail. Good job. So I didn't think that was fair. So I was like, hey, what if we just switched this all around and we just changed our commissions so that we got paid out of closing just like the real estate agent? What if we called it guaranteed? And they're like, yeah, that's super cool. I'm like, okay, well, awesome. Let's do that. All right, well, let's just pour ourselves in this opportunity. So we took and we put all of our energy into this opportunity where we have to change the market, change our market, and then also use the fire in order to bring that to the future, to our audience. And this is what it looked like for us.
July 4th, 2018. I've got 14 dinner guests at my house, 8 of whom are staying the night. I'm setting off firecrackers in the front street for the kids to look at and wave their sparklers around, and my phone rings. Pick up the phone as I'm lighting a firecracker, and my landlord says, I got some bad news. And I was like, what's going on? And he says, your building's on fire. And I was like, okay, have you seen it yet? No, I haven't seen it yet. And I go inside and I Google Seattle fire, and there's this footage.
Massive 3-alarm fire that broke out tonight is still smoldering in SoDo right now. Chopper 7 was over the scene shortly after it broke out on East Marginal Way South around 7 o'clock tonight.
There's smoke, flames shooting out of the front of my building, and a humongous fire hose shooting into the front of my building. And boy, it was so much worse than I imagined. I drive up there the next day to see what all we've lost. And as I walk through, I realize that nothing's left. Nothing's salvageable. I go into planning mode. We go through and we don't miss a single project. We continue to book solid all the way through the rest of July, one of our busiest months traditionally. We were lucky that day. Nobody was hurt. We were well insured. We got hit hard. We had planned to be closed for 5 days already. I had 5 days to get back on our feet. And the truth of the matter is that we staged for the next month solid and didn't miss a single date and haven't yet. In 9 years of business, Spade & Archer has never missed an installation, not once. I started to realize Spade & Archer Guaranteed isn't just about selling your house. Sure, if your house doesn't sell, you don't pay us anything. That's how Guaranteed works. But what I realize is that maybe Guaranteed is what we've always been. Spade & Archer always shows up. We always finish on time. Even on our worst day, it's Spade & Archer. It's Guaranteed.
It goes on to talk about how great Guaranteed is, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so this is that picture. This is how to manage a flopportunity. Stop as soon as you feel scared. Breathe. Identify the flop. Accept the flop. Choose excitement. Find the opportunity. Pour yourselves into it, and the flop will resolve itself. So now I ask you this question. I want you to think about what keeps you up at night right now. What are you scared of? What's your flop? Just hold that in your heart right now for a second. I'm going to talk to you about what my flop is right now, because we're past the fire that was last year. So right now, this is what I'm looking at. So I have 3 very weird sleeping conditions. I do sleep fighting. I do something called sexsomnia, which sounds like a lot of fun, not really. And something called drunken arousalness, which also sounds really fun, like, woohoo, I'm drunk. So I didn't really know that these were actual things. This was just goofy stuff that I did, and it was actually Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec that I saw that he had sleep fighting, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is an actual thing. And when I looked it up in Wikipedia, it said, people sleep and then they fight when they're sleeping, and it's highly associated with early-onset dementia. And I was like, oh, that's kind of creepy. So then I looked up, I was like, sometimes I have sex with my husband while I'm asleep, and they're like, sexsomnia. highly associated with early onset dementia. And I was like, whoa, that's 2 for 2. And I was like, sometimes I don't know where I am, or who's in bed with me when I wake up for about 90 seconds or so, which, by the way, kind of terrifying every morning. And they were like, yeah, that's a thing. That's called drunken arousalness. Also, highly associated with early onset dementia. And I was like, I might want to talk to a doctor about this. So I go and I talk to my doctor, and he's like, hey, let's do some testing on you. So they did a couple of rounds of testing. One was called baseline testing for my cognitive ability, basically testing how smart I am. And they make you do things like this, like read these numbers, 7, 4, 5, 2, 5, 7, 4, 2, 4. Still pretty with it so far. And so they test you until you fail. They want to see how hard they can make the questions until you fail. And so inevitably for 8 hours in a row, you feel super stupid the entire time. Came back, I was at that like highly superior intelligence level, not quite genius. They don't do IQ scores anymore. They just give you words, so that's where I came back. I'm in good shape right now. They'll retest me every 3 years to see what happens. They stuck me in the MRI machine, and they also give me a sleep study. They put 87 anodes attached to my body and make me sleep like that with that big box on my chest. Needless to say, not a good night's sleep, just saying. And they came back with this number. I'm 45 years old, and they came back and they said, you have 15 years until you're down to 20%. And 20% is the point when somebody who is highly superior and highly educated can no longer hide it from their friends and family. It's when you stop remembering conversations 30 seconds into it. It's when you can't drive yourself home. And needless to say, I felt scared, terrified. And I was not really remembering the steps of what a flopportunity was until I saw this quote. When one door closes, another opens. And we look so long at the closed door, we fail to see the one that has been opened for us. And a lot of people had said similar things to this, but this particular one was said by this lady, Helen Keller. And I thought to myself, man, if this chick who is deaf and blind can see the open door before her, why can't I? And so I did that thing again. Let's all do a deep breath in on 3, 1, 2, 3, and let it out. Take your deep breath and remember your Flopportunity management. So I came up with my 15-year rule book. So if I've got 15 good years left, I want to use them to the fullest extent. And these are the rules that I came up with. Number 1, no more no's. No, as a business owner, is extremely inexpensive. When somebody comes to you and they say, I want to buy new jackets, you can say, no, it doesn't cost anything. Or they say, I want to go on vacation. You say, no, because it doesn't cost anything. This talent agent called me up from LA, and he said, this is when I had an office in Portland and Seattle. And he said, hey, we've got 4 houses down in LA, and HGTV needs a home stager, and we can't find anybody in LA. Can you guys stage 4 houses for us in 7 days? And my immediate reaction was, no, I don't have staff, I don't have building, I don't have furniture, I don't have anything down there. But I wasn't allowed to say no, so I said, give me 2 hours. Turns out the show was called Rock the Block. I talked to a couple of people. I came back, I called them, I said, yeah, we can do it. And we ended up staging 4 houses in LA, literally 7 days later. And so it looked like this. The show premiered on Tuesday, and it actually ended up launching our LA office, which, by the way, some of you are looking at me like, ridiculous. And so this is me in my 17,000 square foot space that we just opened our business up in LA. It tripled the size of our business, and all because I chose not to say no. The next one was save the best for the best. Shortly after my building burned down, this guy right here with the red hair on that side, that's my dad. Hasn't talked to me about 20 years since I came out of the closet. That's my sister, my little brother. That guy, Jim Barriant, he got arrested for being a child molester, so pretty high-class dude. And I was faced with this choice. Do I put energy into defending and sticking up for a child molester, or do I put energy into tearing down and making my dad feel bad about himself? And I realized that he didn't deserve any of my energy, positive or negative, and instead I put my energy into these people. This is my sister. I hadn't seen her in almost 10 years. I talked to her 3 or 4 times a week, every single week. Now, this is my brother. I hadn't seen him in 20 years. I flew across the country to go visit with him for 3 days. And this is my other sister. I hadn't seen her in almost 40 years. We sat down for dinner last Saturday and had a conversation, just the 2 of us. I saved the best for the best. And my last rule was I ain't got time. And here's what it looks like. At the beginning of 2018, I had never left North America. I'd been to Tijuana once, I went to Vancouver once, so I'd left the country, but never America. And somebody from my business group called me up and they're like, hey, are you free from April 7th to 11th? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you want to go to China? I was like, yeah. He was gay too, so that's actually what the conversation sounded like. So I ended up in Macau, China, like for free. And I was like, there's a pink wall and I have on a pink jacket. I'm gonna take a picture with it. And then like literally the day after we closed on Rock the Block, I ended up in Italy. Like I'm traveling around the country, like around the world now. And this year we're going to Cuba for a few days. And then we're headed to the Azores Islands off the coast of Portugal. And then this is the coolest one. We're going for 2 weeks to South Africa to go to a regional Burning Man event called Africa Burn. I've never been to Burning Man before. I don't know anything. But here's the thing. Like I ain't got time not to do this stuff. So there's my rule book, no more no's, save the best for the best, and I ain't got time. And while I still love luck as a concept invented by the weak to explain their failures, I think I like this one better. The only difference between the lucky and the unlucky is their ability to recognize an opportunity in a failure. And so we must choose. Do we cry over the burned down building? Or do we search for the new lease? Do we stare at the closed door, or do we fumble blindly for the one that has been opened for us? Do we submit to the diagnosis, or do we allow it to make us better? Do we give in to the flop, or do we dig down deep inside of ourselves and yank out the flopportunity?